Testing, testing. All right, I'm going to be calling the meeting to order here at 6:03 p.m. If you could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're going to proceed with roll call and confirmation of quorum. George Bogdanovich.
Here.
Thomas Hoffman. Here. Jerry Holton. Here. Matt Miller.
Here.
Wendy Drago. And we have 5 members of a 5-member zoning board of appeals. Therefore, we have a quorum. At this point, we're going to proceed to elect a chair of the zoning board of appeals. May we get a motion to elect someone as the chair of the zoning board of appeals this evening?
I'll give a motion to elect a chair.
Who? Your chair.
Oh, Matthew.
All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
So if y'all could make sure that you're pushing your button to turn your microphone on to green. So there's the big button in the middle there. And if you would like to just keep the microphone on, if that's easier, so you don't remember to have to turn it on and off, that's fine too. So we have a motion for Matt Miller to become the chair for the Zoning Board of Appeals, and seconded by
Tom Hoffman.
Tom Hoffman. Okay, sorry, give me. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Now it's up to you.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and read the agenda here. We've already done our call of order and our pledge and our roll call, and we've elected a chair. So next on the agenda is confirmation and compliance with the open meetings law and public notice requirements.
Yep, so I will confirm that the notices that were required have been published, posted, and mailed in accordance with statutes and municipal code.
Fantastic. We are going to then also do an approval of the minutes from previous meetings from November 27th of 2023. Do we need to ask for any seconds or anything like that?
Yep, so we would want a motion to approve.
So motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got it.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Let's put it to a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Minutes from November 27th, 2023 have been approved, and now it is on to new business. Public hearing number 1 for tonight. The topic is an appeal to grant a variance to construct an addition to an existing house. Location is 2021 Nagawicka Road. It's a Heartland address, Wisconsin 53209. The applicants are James and Sarah Lowe, who are the homeowners. And the matter is discussion and, or it is an appeal to grant a variance to construct an addition to an existing house at 2021 Nagawicka Road. The property code is DELC 07820-16001. The parcel is zoned RL1, Residential Lake 1. The proposed addition does not meet the 15-foot minimum side yard setback as required in Section 5211G10 of the City of Delafield zoning code. The discussion and possible action regarding the appeal of Jim and Sarah Lowe to grant a variance to construct an addition.
No, hold on, stop.
Oh,
Yep. Sorry. So we're going to stop there. You're going to open the public
okay.
hearing.
Sorry. Okay, let's open the public hearing for issue number 1,
At 6:08 PM.
6:08 PM.
Then you're gonna.
All right. Sure.
Or, do we want to have the applicant present their item first?
Yeah, why don't we have the applicant present their item first and make any comments that they would like to do, and then after that, we can open it up to the public to have any, or make any further comments.
All right, let's do that.
And then I'll also add too, after the public speaks, then I'll allow the applicant to come back up and address any questions or comments that are raised by the public. If you guys would state your name and also your address for the record, please, to the clerk.
Greg Perkins, I am the contractor for the Lowe's. My address is W245 N4749 Swan Road, Pewaukee, 53072.
Jim Lowe, or James Lowe. I live at 2021 Negawicka Road, Heartland, Wisconsin, 53029. It's the property in question.
So what we're requesting is a variance based on the fact that the home is, the lot's a bit askew to the way the home is presented to the road and to the property. And so to be able to put the addition on, which is pretty much in keeping with a lot of the homes in the area. They have, 3-car garage. The desire there has us encroach on the setbacks of 15 feet off the side. And so we're looking for a variance to approve the addition as it's drawn to be within that 15 feet. We'd be at 10-foot 10 setback off the front of the front corner of the addition and 12-foot 4 setback off of the rear corner of the addition. The reason we're asking for this is, again, because of the home being askew on the lot, or the lot being askew to the home, whatever, and we just can't get that right. The desire of the homeowner is to present the space in a way that they can hide stuff that they want to park in the garage, rather than have their neighbors and the neighborhood have to deal with their cars, their camper, boat, whatever. They would like to be able to house that indoors so it's not an eyesore for everybody else.
Any other, anything else on that? Okay.
Does the board have,
And-
does the board have any questions for the applicant
Yeah.
too?
I have a question. Are we looking at the addition to the south side of the house?
Correct.
Okay.
Directly south.
Yeah.
The house faces east.
East?
Yep. And it's the same side, so we'd be tearing off the current garage and replacing it with this new structure.
Sir, can you talk a little bit closer to the
Sorry. Yes, I was just saying that it's the exact place that the garage is currently. So the current garage would come off, it's a 2-car garage, and we would be replacing it with a 3-car garage.
What's the setback now with your
The
existing
current
garage?
setback is 22.55.
22.55. And you're proposing to go 10 feet additional?
We'd be at 10-foot 10 would be the final setback, rather than the minimum
And
required.
the rule is 15 feet?
Correct.
And you're tearing this garage off and just adding a garage? Nothing else?
It's a garage with some living space above.
Okay.
How close will you be to the well?
We'll be clear of the well on there's 2 wells. There's the neighbor's well, which we're well clear of, and we will be approximately 7 feet from the well that serves this particular residence.
There'd be no lower structure below the garage. And so there's currently no legislation around that position, but it would be set back far enough for service.
I'd like to ask, why can't you build a garage and stay at the 15-foot setback?
It would retain two-car garage. It wouldn't be a three-car garage, and so we'd still have to have our camper outside of the garage, and therefore growing the garage doesn't serve any purpose.
But you could store off-site either the boat or the camper, correct?
No, because of the fact that we need charging capabilities to maintain the service to the RV. So currently we have plug access on the side of our home servicing that to be able to maintain the batteries and the utilities on the RV.
You need to keep them plugged in, you're saying,
Yeah.
year-round during the winter?
Yeah.
Can I ask why?
There isn't any facilities that would have electric access for storage?
Not nearby that we've been able to find. So currently the device is stored next to the garage and plugged in accordingly.
Can the RV fit inside the garage right now?
No. The current garage is standard height. The addition, if you look at the floor plans, has a 10-foot height for the outer bay.
Any other questions? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so as far as, I guess I want to circle back to the off-site storage. Are you saying that's impossible to find or it's inconvenient?
Off-site storage does not offer electrical service. You would have to rent, like a business,
Right.
facility rather than you store it or some public storage like that.
Correct.
They don't offer power in their units. They can't handle if there's power and then all of a sudden there's a fire, they can't monitor those things. So they don't offer, none of those storage facilities offer power.
It's also a 15-amp RV plug.
Batteries could be taken out, stored in your basement, and then brought back in spring, correct?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay.
In other words, excuse me, you don't need power all winter for this unit.
As he just mentioned, if we take the batteries out, it avoids the issue.
You're worried about the amperage going down, the battery
Yeah,
freezing?
Maintaining the battery, yeah,
okay.
for serviceability.
So obviously you're probably aware, there's a pretty high margin bar to reach to grant a variance. You have to show like specific hardship. You have to show that the property has some kind of unique characteristics. Is there anything specific about your property that would prevent you from building something further back on the property or in a different area, like a shed or something to store something in, or anything like that?
So that the back of the lot, if you look at the site elevations, it drops off significantly in the back. And we had looked at building a garage with a garage below it or behind it, and the elevations there, it is a steep drop-off, which doesn't allow for, we can't get to that back portion.
Are you talking specifically right behind the garage currently, or are you talking about?
You have such a large drop-off there from 909 to 897, so that's 12 feet in a very short distance. You're not going to be able to get a vehicle you're not going to be able to get a vehicle down there and back out of there because it's such a steep drop-off there.
Is that the same for the north side of the property?
The north side only has 16 feet off
I'm sorry,
16.88.
driving, as far as getting the vehicle
Oh,
back
yeah.
there?
Yeah, it drops off on both sides.
I don't see the contour lines on here, so is that same or different? Because I don't see the same contour
It's the
lines.
same, it's the same drop. The whole back of the house immediately drops down. And then as soon as you get past, we have a fence in the backyard. As soon as you get past that, I believe we're in a watershed as well for Negawicka. So we'd have restrictions in terms of building structures in that area based on,
It appears that there is a shed back there already?
I think it's 8 feet by 4 feet. Yeah, it doesn't have a foundation. It's a
You can
portable
have
unit.
you can have two structures on your property. Right, two outdoor structures.
I was aware of only one.
Yeah, two, one big one and one little one.
Okay.
But access to a large one would be, you can't not get a vehicle down there and back up, let alone take a trailer or a boat down there and then get it back up out of that hole. And as he mentioned, the watershed. So that little building is, the little 8 foot by 4 foot is, basically a garden shed type.
Yeah, the grade elevation
Hold
behind
utensils.
the house is close to 45 degree in terms of the grade elevation change, especially on the garage side of the house. On the other side, it's a little bit more gentle, but still drops.
How much are you adding to the garage going to the west?
To the west,
Yeah.
we're going to be going approximately 4 feet beyond the back of the house.
So you knocked down the current garage and the way these pictures look that you drew up, it looks like you're going to be 4 deep, this garage?
We'll be 4 foot 1 inch past the existing house, the way it is right now.
Which needs to be built up from the elevation grade all the way
Yeah,
up to
the
the garage
elevations, we're
surface.
going to have to build up on that, but the main reason to do that is to allow for us to build access to the back of the house, the rear entry to the house in the back, because it is so steep there, the only way we can get a decent access. Right now, there is a door there, but it does not have a well-protected, safe access or egress from the home there, and we're trying to correct that.
You mentioned in your report that aesthetically you want to put this garage up to put your equipment away,
Yep.
right, in the summertime, I would assume? What do you do?
Well, it's not just the summertime, because
What do you-
if
what do
it's
you
a
do in the-
garage,
What do you do in the wintertime, right now?
currently we take it off-site to a barn.
That doesn't have electricity to plug in?
It does not, which has been a struggle.
It's a battery in your camper and a battery in your boat, right?
Yeah. Well,
And it's a
actually,
struggle?
two in both.
So what?
There's 2 in both,
2 in both, is that what you're saying?
correct?
Okay.
The main thing here is, yes, that makes it nicer, right?
Of course.
First world problem, right?
Of course.
But realistically, it's the angle of the house on the lot, it's the slope in the back that does not allow us to put up a different structure or to do a structure in a different way, as we've looked at multiple opportunities to try to accomplish this. The garage, the square footage of the garage, in keeping with the size that is allowable by the community as well, and being able to do that, that's why we end up going to this variance.
But I asked you before, if you stay within the 15-foot setback, you'd be going from in order to do that, you would have to reduce it to a 2-car versus a 3. Did I understand
Which
that
is what
correctly?
it is now.
That's what it is now. I can just make we can make a larger door. We can add
Right.
7 feet, which is not enough to actually accommodate the camper.
The garage itself is only 21 feet wide, built in, back in the day.
70s.
And so that width is just, it's not really a full 2-car garage. So to get that full width, yes, we can make it larger. If we stayed within the 15 feet, we'd be able to take that from 21.71 feet wide to 28 feet wide. To actually have a third bay, the minimum we're able to do is 33 feet. And we're trying to stay within his minimum limits, we're at 32. So we're already, to be a
So it's
legitimate three-entry.
possible, but not desirable.
32 is what, yeah, we shrunk it down down to the 32 because we understand the limits on getting a variance. It's not, we're not looking at this and saying, oh, this is a cakewalk by any means.
No,
We
I
understand it's
understand.
15 feet is 15 feet, and so we're trying to accommodate the community and the hardship that the lot has produced, the way the home is built right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Lowe, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is your home conforming at this time with a two-car garage? Is there any subdivision restrictions for you to have a three-car garage at this time?
No.
Thank you.
Wendy, can you repeat that,
Sure.
the question?
Yes. I had asked Mr. Lowe if there was any subdivision restrictions for him to have a three-car garage.
Gotcha.
And just to add to that, there are multiple of our neighbors that primarily have three-car garages. Any of the new structures that have been built and many that have been modified include three-car garages.
So your property is conforming to deed restrictions and to all zoning requirements at this time?
Currently, yes.
But you're unaware that any of your neighbors that have a three-car garage, did they need a variance to do that? Or were they within their limits of side yard and front yard setbacks?
Well, there's multiple houses that are closer than 15 feet. I don't know when that, went into existence, whether or not that's on the current structure or a previous structure. But multiples are, there's also a 50-foot setback from the front of the house. There's multiple garages that are right at the road, along with my neighbor who got a variance to add in addition to his existing structure that was already against, that setback limit. They just made it larger, but it was already, maintaining a shorter distance than the 50-foot setback. That's Craig Reinders behind us. That was under review last year.
Any other questions? Okay. Public comment?
Do you guys want to step back for now?
So before we close the
Nope.
public hearing, is there anyone else from the public? Just, no, okay. All right, well then, if the board's ready, the chair can close the public hearing, and then we can proceed to deliberation.
Okay, yep, close, I'm going to go ahead and close public hearing portion of this, and we're going to move to deliberation at 6:27 PM. Thank you. I guess I'll start with my thoughts. Oh, okay, now we read item B. Okay, so reading item B, the discussion and possible action regarding the appeal of Jim and Sarah Lowe, owner, to grant variance to construct in addition to an existing house at 2021 Nagawicka Road. The parcel is zoned RL1. The proposed addition does not meet the 15-foot minimum side yard setback as required in section 5211 G10 of the City of Delafield zoning code. So, okay, based on what was presented here, and I kind of mentioned that there's a very difficult bar to meet when it comes to granting variances. You have to really show that there's some kind of hardship and that you really would not be able to use the property in the intended manner, except for the variance. In this case, I think a couple of my colleagues up here have pointed out some potential things that could be done to solve what seem to be the potential hardships involved here, being unable to properly store the recreational vehicles, boat and campers and such. Storing off-site, removing batteries, plugging them in, that sort of thing. And the standard that we have to meet here, it's not a nice-to-have standard. It's an absolutely can't have, or I can't use the property. I can't, use the property as the way the property was intended. I guess in my opinion, that with that very, very high bar, well, I understand that we want to be able to do with our property what we want to do with it, and that should be the way it works. But there is the codes are in place for reasons, and those are established by by our government officials, and based on that, it looks to me. I guess I just don't see the hardship and the inability to use the property for the purpose of what it is. It's a kind of a nice to have situation.
I would agree with,
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Matt, I am in the same position you are on this, and I understand it's your land. You feel you have a right to build what you want to build, but in order to be in a community, you have to stay within certain guidelines. And I know it's inconvenient to store off-site, take batteries in and out. I totally get it. But there is a standard by which this community has said there is a 15-foot setback. And I'm not seeing the hardship here. It's inconvenient, it's unfortunate, but I don't see a hardship.
Thanks. I think we had an opportunity here to really understand, what the goals are of the homeowner and the intentions, and it makes sense. I understand they are trying to, maybe improve the aesthetics of the neighborhood with, putting vehicles and, equipment in a inside storage area, and that all is very sensible, but, and we all as homeowners would want that for our neighborhoods, to make them look as nice and tidy as possible. However, variances aren't granted for that reason, so I understand our responsibility to follow that as our guideline when we're making decisions for variances, to not consider that as a hardship, because there are some options available. One of them that, could be maybe further explored would be designing the garage in a completely different fashion that would afford them to have some storage, probably not economical for them, or maybe the easiest path to lessen the resistance to the design changes and the process that they've started at this point. I also know that there may be, it may not be convenient for them to be traveling miles and miles away from their home to find storage, without, with a power source that they need. But again, that wouldn't constitute a hardship from our perspective as a board to grant a variance. That's a personal hardship that doesn't affect the aesthetics and the decisions that we would make in calling it that, so.
I just got a couple comments that this is the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm not sure why I volunteered for this. Asked by a good friend, and I've been doing this for a few years now, and many years, and I've been living here for 28 years here in the city of Delafield, and we love it. And one of the things that we have been trained on is we stick to the code. trying to take the emotion out of it, and you stick to the code, which is very hard to do because we're also homeowners. Okay? And secondly, what I think is not a problem, my neighbor may think is a problem. And when I'm doing something, I think it's terrific, but my neighbor may not. So that's why we put these codes in. And I see what you want to do, makes perfect sense, but the codes are the codes are the codes. So I agree with you, Chairman.
I would also add too, so we've got several criteria in our decision form. One of them is whether or not there's been a unnecessary hardship. Everyone's gone around and pretty much commented on that topic for an array of reasons. Another part of the criteria is that a hardship, would be created as a result of unique property limitations. Does anyone on the board want to touch base with regard to that specific criteria? Are there unique property limitations here? Do you feel that there are not? And if so, why? I think that would be also helpful for the record before we form our decision.
In this case, and I guess in my opinion, the property has some characteristics, the steepness of it, that make it difficult to put storage on site in any other place than, at the front of the property. It does appear that part of this metric, this criteria, it's not an easy property to really do storage on, to create storage on. That particular item, I think, this property being so steep is an issue that makes it a little bit difficult to do certain things with the property. However, it's again, what we're looking to, I guess, but given that, going back to what kind of tips my decision is the fact that there is options to solve the problem at hand with other means. I guess that's where I would go with that.
And perhaps I can.
And I'd like to
I can
speak to
chime
that.
in. Yeah, and I can also chime in, perhaps too, that it may be, difficult, but perhaps it's not necessarily impossible, or the evidence here has not suggested it's impossible to look elsewhere on the property to construct what is being asked here this evening as well.
Right, yeah.
I guess, I don't know if we established that it was or was not possible to build a shed for storage, if that's what we're looking for, but, you can store it currently is being stored on site, so my thought there is that can continue. It can continue to do the same thing that you're doing, and it's not going to create hardship.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to further, talk to the point of unnecessary hardship, from our understanding and our definition of that is unnecessary hardship is based on special conditions unique to the property rather than considerations personal to the property owner and the hardships that shall not be created by the property owner. So in this situation, it's a personal choice to have a boat or an extra camper, but that is really not a hardship. That's just a choice. So that really is not fitting to a hardship. Is that?
I'm sorry, with the no, the public hearing's closed at this point in time, so the board's deliberating. Is there anybody else that has just any remarks that they want to add? We've got this decision form in here that we can get filled out. Matt, I think.
Yeah, let me just take a look here, see if there's anything else that we. Okay.
And Matt, if necessary, I think before you even arrived, we can also do a motion to recess to just allow you to fill out this decision form, and then we can reconvene, have everybody review it. If it's consistent with what the remarks were,
Okay.
just now,
Yeah,
we can do that.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion for, I'm going to make a motion that we,
It'd be a motion
to recess
in order to write
for,
up the written
for
decision.
consideration of the decision form.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll
I'd second
second
the
that.
motion.
Is that a tie? Give it to who you want.
Agree.
All right, put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
You've got the unfortunate experience of having to write cases.
Okay. All right.
If you want, we can do, if you write in the date. The hearing date is the 26th.
We all are. We all are.
I love my property. I had to come in front of Scott
Yeah.
7 years ago
I did
for a big
too.
addition, and he said, this is what you gotta
Yeah,
do.
and I had to come.
And I have 3 RLs. You have what? 3 RLs. 1, 2, and 3.
What are RLs? What do you mean?
Requirements for these things.
What is the new requirement?
Yeah, either what they call them. Oh, RLs. You got 3 different codes on my land.
Oh, I see what you're
So
saying.
on my east end, it's 5 feet. So
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to reconvene at
6:49.
6:49. I'm going to go ahead and,
Need a second?
oh, a second. Oh, yeah.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, motion or vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's 3. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? None? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go through the decision form. We all have this in front of us. I'm going to let you know where I filled in the blanks. Filing date of 11/26/2024, hearing date of 11/26/2024. Owner and petitioner, James and Sarah Lowe of 2021 Nagawicka Road, Heartland, Wisconsin, 53029. The owner and petitioner are at the same address as the real property, with a tax key number of DELC 0782016001. The owner and petitioner proposes that, we're proposing an addition of a garage as described in the packet provided to us. Letter D, the owner slash petitioner requests an area variance under 5211G10 of the ordinance, which describe the nature of the variance is a reduction in the side yard setback from 15 feet, from the 15-foot to 10 feet 10 inches. A conclusions of law, and I'm suggesting that based on the findings of fact, the board is concluding that the variance does not meet all 3 of the following tests. Unnecessary hardship is not present because the owner is not prevented from having a garage. It can still store the RV on site currently, could store the RV off-site and remove batteries, and any potential issues would be basically self-created and not inherently burdensome to the owner. Number 2, the hardship is not due to any unique physical limitations of the property. The applicant is not prevented from storing the RV on site as applicant does so currently. And 3, the variance will harm the public interest. Well, while public interest was not a significant consideration, other than that, communities have rules, and being part of communities means living within those rules.
Is there anything, I'll stop you there, is there anything that the board would like to have added to 1, 2, or 3 that Matt did not already cover?
No.
Okay. All right, then, based on that, I guess I would put a vote to adopting or approving these.
Yep, and
This
actually,
decision matrix?
if you wouldn't mind making one clarification
Sure.
on the filing date on page 1, was
Filing date was
August 6, 2024.
August 6th, okay.
Yes.
8/6, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Filing date.
So as Matt's filling that out, is there anything else from the board that you feel like needs to be included in this, this proposed written decision before a motion is made?
I have just something really minor to put under the hardship due to physical limitations, that the lot is conforming. That is a conforming lot.
The lot
It
conforms
is
currently?
conforms,
Okay,
so
sure.
currently.
Okay, adding to the end, the lot currently conforms with code?
With the zoning code of RL1.
Okay, lot currently conforms,
That would be including the dimensional standards that are required. Is that by the more
That's correct.
specific? Yeah.
code RL1. Okay.
Would you like that part added, or
Yes, please.
What was the last?
just something to the effect of including the dimensional standards required for the applicable zoning district?
Okay. Okay. Anything else to be added to any of the decisioning criteria?
All
Okay.
right.
Put it to a vote to approve it.
Yeah, so it would be a motion to deny the variance requested, consistent with the written decision before the board.
Okay, someone want to make that motion?
What's the wording?
Motion to,
A motion
Motion to
to,
deny?
it would be a motion to deny the variance, consistent with the written decision present before the board currently.
I make a motion to deny based on
The written decision presently before
the
the board.
written decision that we just heard tonight.
Okay.
second.
I second the motion.
Vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Wendy?
Are you
Opposed?
Opposed? Oh, okay.
All right, none?
Okay. And
Motion
then,
carries.
Matt, if you can go ahead and sign that written decision, and then we'll just let it reflect for the record that he's going to file that with Molly, the secretary of the board. Molly, if you could sign that as well and date it filed as today. And then we'll move on to the next agenda item here shortly.
Okay, based on that, we move on to letter C of the agenda, public hearing number 2. Topic is to appeal a grant a variance to complete first and second floor expansions, location 2378 Lakeview Court, Delafield, Wisconsin 53018. The applicant Christy Maso, sorry, who's the owner. And the, do I read the matter, right?
Just read the matter, yep.
Okay, matter,
You're
right?
good.
Okay, appeal to grant a variance to complete first and second floor expansions to a home located at 2378 Lakeview Court, DELC 0751105. The property is zoned RL2. The proposed expansions do not comply with the 50-foot minimum shore yard setback required in section 52-111, Romanet I-8 of the City of Delafield Code. Let's go ahead and make a motion to open? or
you just-
okay,
as
go
the
ahead and
chair.
open the
Yep.
public hearing on this and ask that the applicant come forward and, and give us their explanation. And then we do this at 6:57 PM. Yes, applicant and anyone who else would like to be there in support of them.
And then will everybody state their name and address for the record as well? If you're intending to speak.
If you could turn on the microphone for it. Thank you.
It's on.
Is it on now? Yeah.
Yes.
Attorney Tim Langer appearing on behalf of Ms. Mazo. And my address is 155 East Capitol Drive, Heartland.
Matt Sarah with MKE Contracting. My address is 1288 Glenview Place, Wauwatosa.
Can you please spell your last name
CERRA.
and repeat that address for me? I apologize.
Sorry, 1288 Glenview Place.
I'm sorry.
1288 Glenview Place.
Thank you.
And I'm Christy Maso, the owner at 2378 Lakeview Court.
Okay, you can go ahead.
I think I'll start. Because I've sat on committees like yours, sometimes the important papers are hard to find in the 90 stacks that you have. So there's the rendering of the site, showing the area, showing the prospective additions. the important elements of this are, first, you'll see a light purple section in the dead center of the
Sir,
page.
could you make sure that you're talking into the microphone, though? I know you're trying to
Nope.
kind of, sorry about that.
So hopefully that's a little better. But so that purple area is the buildable area of that lot. It's 127 square feet. And so you'll see that essentially the whole house exists outside of the buildable area because of the unique nature of this lot. It's on a peninsula. And so when you take a 50-foot setback from the shoreline all the way around, it leaves 127 square feet to build. The applicable zoning code requires the first floor of any house in a RL2 zoning district to have at least 900 square feet of space. So clearly, we're in a unique area with this property.
So it currently would be non-conforming at this
There
point?
is nothing about the house that is conforming at this point in time. And yet it's a beautiful older home. It's got gorgeous wood paneling inside that you wouldn't be able to afford to put in a house today. And it has been an asset to the neighborhood for generations, literally. Beyond that, what you're going to see is the areas cross-hatched in red are the two locations where we're looking at making an addition. The largest of the two is easterly, and it's identified as a second floor master suite. I know everybody understands that second floors don't float in the air. It's an area that is being added on top of the existing structure, the first floor. There is a second floor in other areas of the house, there just isn't here, and that's what's being proposed. It's being proposed within the building footprint of the existing home. That's what I'm going to refer to as addition number one. Addition number two is a smaller area on the south end of the house that is listed, identified as a vestibule, an entryway for ease of transit and blocking weather as you enter the home. And so that is right alongside of where that purple area is. You'll see the red cross hatching there. And so we're in essence requesting two variances, both related to the same issue, the setback from the shoreline. In either case, we are not increasing the encroachment on the shoreline. We're not getting nearer to the shoreline at all. And in the case of the second story addition, obviously we're not increasing the footprint of the home. The vestibule does increase the footprint of the home, but within an existing deck. So the amount of impervious space has not been altered by that proposal, but you know, for clarity, it is a 66-foot increase in the footprint of the home. What I would like to do is I would like to share a series of letters that have been issued by interested community members, almost all of whom are the immediate neighbors of Ms. Mazo. She is a new arrival to Delafield here, and she's made more friends in the last few months than maybe I've made in a lifetime around this area. And many of them are here, and many of those that are here are her neighbors. These letters are from the neighbors who couldn't come, and probably from a few who are here.
Got one for everyone, okay. Oh.
So what I can tell you about the lot that this home sits upon is that it is unique in that it is appropriately sized for zoning. It's a pretty large lot, as lake properties go. When we complete the additions that have been proposed here, there will still be more than adequate open space. There will be a much smaller floor area ratio than would be permitted, so the house is not nearly as big as the size of the lot would otherwise permit. Impervious space is not being altered by what's going on here. Frankly, I think the only reason that we're here is because God made a peninsula as opposed to a man making a nice straight property line. And so we have this situation where people design zoning codes to be reflective of how subdivisions are made and how people have four corners on their lot, and when you get something that's an arc like this, it's uniquely challenging. Rather than talk a lot about why I think this is unique, I think Ms. Mazo probably can tell you what the challenges are if the variance is not granted.
So thank you very much. I know nothing about committees or zoning or construction. I'm an ICU physician who just moved to Delafield 2 months ago. And am very fortunate that I have amazing neighbors who are supportive and who agree and really would like us and my family to be as happy and functional as possible. I bought this house understanding that it was unique. I bought it from a couple who had lived there for 8 years, and in the time that they were there, actually put on a second and third story onto this home for just the two of them and their very, very young grandchildren. And so at the time when we went to look into this house, my significant other, Garrett, who's lived in Delafield and is part of Lake Country Fire for the last 30 years, we were going to blend our family, and that means increasing from just me to myself, Garrett, and his 3 children. So now we go to a family of 5. In addition to that, I have an elderly mother who does not live with me currently, but we are actively trying to get her to move from her current existence because she suffered an injury a year ago where she almost lost her leg, and she has mobility issues with tight corners. And so when we looked at this house, we knew that there were some things that would need to change. And we did our due diligence. My architect, my contractor and my real estate agent called the city. We looked at the existing zoning codes that were on the county's website, and we talked and pulled the permits from the previous owners. And there was nothing at that time that suggested we couldn't build within the structure of the house. We knew we couldn't go forward towards the water, and we had no intention ever of doing that. But given that the patio, essentially the deck we're trying to enclose, and that's a structure that already exists, and the first floor is already there, and the previous owners did a second floor already, it never occurred, nor did anybody suggest that we wouldn't be able to do that. The owners of the previous home built that home for very small grandchildren that visited every once in a while. They came a couple weekends a summer. They have a 3rd floor space that is a fireman's ladder to get up to, which I'm a pretty fit adult and I have a hard time getting up there. Most of the people that have toured through the house won't even attempt to go up those stairs to get up there. So that's essentially not a functional space at all. All of the rooms on the 2nd floor, including the master and the 2 bedrooms, all share 1 bathroom in incredibly tight corners. One that would be very difficult for my mom to even maneuver with hard right angles with a walker. Obviously, we can't put a 1st floor master on for her, so she would have to be able to get up there to walk around. She spends at least about a quarter to a third of the year with me because of her limitations until I can get her to give up some form of her independence. I understand that personal hardships are not necessarily taken into account, but I assure you that I would not have been able to purchase this home if I thought that I couldn't build within the existing structure of it. Understanding that the lot is incredibly unique and I love it, and if it were just me, we wouldn't be here. But I have a family of 5 and sometimes of 6, and I don't want to have to sell this house.
And then I think I'd ask Matt to describe a little bit of the process involved in designing what's to be built.
Yeah, so I think what we really tried to accomplish was, as both of them have said previously, is really trying to stay within the footprint of the house so that we aren't encroaching on any of the setbacks, and we aren't adding any more impervious surface.
Can you speak a little bit more into the microphone?
Sorry.
I can't quite
Sorry.
hear you. So.
Yeah, so I just think that it would be beneficial to keep everything within the footprint of the house so that we weren't encroaching on any of the setbacks. The architect, Dan, came up with a really good design. We felt that kind of maintains the character of the home, doesn't obstruct anybody else's views, any of the neighbors' views. Everything is contained within the existing roof lines. No additional impervious surface is added to the property. The one thing that I wanted to touch on was more of the RL2 zone. There are, I don't know if you guys have a zone, in the packet there was a zoning map, but there's a lot of RL2 zoned homes on the lake. Most of them are your typical rectangle lot where they have lake on one side, street or alley on one side, and then normal setbacks on the side lots. We're dealing with a very unique situation where we have water on all three sides, which, creates this setback issue. There are like 4 other properties on the lake they're on our peninsula and have water on 3 sides, but the lots are almost double in size. So their homes fit within, they have like a bigger buildable area than, we do. We have 127 square feet, which if there is no property on this, no structure on this property right now, you wouldn't be able to build anything on it as it stands right now. So it's kind of a very unique property. It's almost like it should not be included in the RL2 zone, but understanding that you can't just make one zone for one property. But that was kind of my main point, is that the RL2 zoning district, most of the properties are the large rectangle lots.
This evening, I think you're going to recognize lots of longtime Delafield residents. In addition, we have Dan Glajewski, who is the architect and available to answer questions.
Can you speak a little bit more into the microphone? I can't really hear you outside of.
Okay, so Dan Glajewski is our architect, and will be here to answer any questions that you might have. One housekeeping item is that Attorney Van Clunen and I had a discussion earlier today to sort of limit the number of topics that I needed to address in front of this board, and we reached an agreement to sort of keep things simple, I think. I memorialized that in an email to him this afternoon, and he's reviewed it today. I'm just asking that it be part of the record so that if we go forward, administrative matters sort of take care of themselves.
Why don't you just hand Molly?
I have given her a copy.
Oh, Molly has a copy? Okay, so it's part of the record, so we're good in there.
And that's the email that I had given you that's from myself, Tim Langer, to Michael P. Van Clunen, dated Tuesday, November 26, 2024 at 5:09 p.m. And apologize for that. So beyond that, I guess I know that there are members of the community that are aching to have a conversation with you, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have as your discussion proceeds.
Question, what is the current square footage of the house in its current state, and then what would it be after the additions?
You guys should have a sheet on that actually in the packet. I believe the existing house is 2,354 square feet.
Okay.
And we would be,
Perhaps I can respond from the packet and tell me if this seems correct.
Yep.
I see a total coverage of 2,834.
Correct.
And then after construction is completed, total coverage would be 3,236.
so that total coverage includes all of the structures on the property. So the shed, the
Okay.
gazebo.
That's impervious coverage?
Correct.
Okay.
So we are, one of the points too is that we are well underneath the FAR ratio
Okay.
with everything included.
Let me clarify it. In the packet, total house right now, 2,354. After construction, 2,756. Does that sound?
Correct.
Okay, that'd be 402 square feet more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Did you buy the home from the person that built it or the person that remodeled it?
I bought it from, not the person who built it, the person who added the addition.
Okay, and did the person add the back deck as well? Do you know?
Front deck?
Oh, no,
The lakeside deck.
there's no lakeside. The only deck that's there is the walkway. It doesn't face the lake.
The addition you're putting on is a second floor on top of what?
The second floor is on top of a first floor solarium. It's part of the first floor of the home. There's no
Okay.
deck there.
Okay,
The deck that we're talking about putting the vestibule in is not on a water side. It's on the only side that's obviously not water, and that's a patio porch that's already there.
what side of the house is that?
It would be so the deck is on the south side of the house.
Okay,
The solarium is on the east side of the house.
okay. All right, and you're not increasing the footprint.
Correct.
Correct.
And the person that did these additions were in or were out of code, did you say before?
I assume that they must have done a variance to be able to build even within the structure, because they did still go up
And
and
about what year was that, do you know?
7 years ago.
7 years
I need
ago?
to add at this point that permits were issued about that time, but the zoning code was different. It was different. It's been changed. We've been changing our zoning code for the last 3 years.
Okay, so the addition is going up, not out towards the 50-foot. And that's what changed, Scott?
Correct.
So
Can we cite the code so we know? I mean, just explain it
Cite
real
the old-
quick?
Well, the old code said that you could add on to a non-conforming structure, like a structure that's too close to something, the lake, the road, the side setback, or side yard, as long as you didn't create a greater degree of nonconformity. They've changed that. Just, I think for this reason, that it might be appropriate for a first floor to be close to the side setback or the side property line, but not a second and third floor. In fact, it's probably a permit like that that caused the city to think and rethink and modify their zoning code.
And I think from my standpoint, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, that code, or that ordinance was just passed in May. So when I went to see this house in July, like I said, we did our due diligence. We went on the website, my agent did, and we looked, and that ordinance change was not updated in the actual zone. It was, I think, a pending change or somewhere where I wouldn't have known to look. There was nothing that led us to believe that we couldn't, especially since the previous owners had added on to do the second floor, that we couldn't just finish the second floor. We weren't doing
This
anything more.
changed how long ago, Scott?
We've been changing our code for a few years, and I don't think it was that recent. It
Okay.
wasn't.
And you moved in
I moved in September. I put the offer in July.
just
Of this year.
2 months ago.
2024.
do you mind if I just comment real quick? So there's a email chain that I have from, between Tim and Amy Barrows of the city planner. And she actually highlighted the old zoning code, which I have, and I could read it to you if you want. It says residential structures which encroach upon setback and other yard requirements, but which met setback and yard requirements at the time of construction, and which comply with the use regulations of the district in which they are located, may be structurally altered, provided they do not create a greater degree of encroachment or a greater degree of nonconformity. Okay.
And I think that code was amended at the municipal level to be in compliance with the state requirement and the state statute. But the city attorney
Yeah.
can weigh in.
I'll touch a little bit on that. So that correctly recaps honestly what Scott just said as far as what the previous code was. And then you all were correct. In May, there was a change to the code. I'll read it to you now of what in relevant part. It states now that lateral and vertical additions to a non-conforming structure are permitted if the addition complies with all dimensional standards all dimensional standards of the zoning district. So the dimensional standard that's being appealed from here, in particular with regard to the vertical addition, would be the shore setback. That addition itself does not comply with the the current dimensional standard for the shore setback. Does that all make sense?
Which it never could, right, because the house itself doesn't comply with the 50-foot setback.
Right now, there would be no addition that could be permitted under the code without a variance in light of how the structure is currently situated.
Or any structure.
Yeah.
Just a bit of clarification from the taxpayer's perspective as well. Even today, if you open up the zoning code, it is only current through December of last year. And so everything that's happened this year is not easily accessible unless you have the sophistication to know that you have to go look at signed ordinances posted from the mayor's office in an entirely different portion of the website. And then you've got to be able to figure out how to cross-reference partial sentences and deletions and stuff to the existing code. So it's not surprising at all to me to hear that a physician with her many years of experience, with an experienced realtor searching the city of Delafield code, did not stumble across this problem. That's not to say that anybody's at fault here. I don't think that Mr. Hussinger has done anything wrong. He's followed the code just the way he should. Mr. Van Koenen and I have talked almost philosophically about the city of Delafield code and how it applies here. And it's a perfect role for a Board of Zoning review to intercede and solve problems that would be impossible to solve otherwise, just based on the 127 square feet of buildable space on this lot.
But you said something earlier, and I also saw it in your paperwork. You bought this house, and you didn't know your family was going to grow like it has. So how was that a hardship to the city of Delafield?
How is my family functioning in the house a hardship to the city of Delafield? Is that, sorry?
You said if it was just you love the lot, you wouldn't do all this. But since you have this influx of your mom.
Correct.
And whatever else you said earlier, 3 kids and another adult or whatever you said. So this is requiring you to build?
Correct, I can't, right, so the house in its current state was built, and I wish the owners could be here, but the previous owners built it specifically for a family of their size. They
But were
built
you
it for
thinking on
2.
doing that when you bought it back in May, not knowing the situation that you're finding yourself in now?
No, I thought that I would be able to always expand up. I always thought that there was
Okay.
the ability to expand up and to, as long as I stayed within the footprint, that was the message that kept getting relayed. And that was what I was looking for in the zoning codes, to find something different. And there was nothing ever to suggest that. I had always known that at some point my mother was going to need to come with me. And I always knew that she was going to have her own separate space. Garrett and I have been talking about for a long time about what we're going to do with our family. And so I always knew that the likelihood is we would get bigger. I just didn't know that I wouldn't be able to make the house for that size.
If I could ask a question. So you asked questions before you bought this house, and you got advice from, was any of that advice from Attorney Langer?
No.
So it was real estate, or what were you, who were you getting your advice from at that time?
Yeah, my real estate agent, and then, quite frankly, my own due diligence. I went on the site myself. I read through, I didn't understand all the language, but I certainly understood what would be allowed versus I would have seen something that said no lateral or no vertical. I would have immediately questioned that. I don't have a great working knowledge, but I certainly have the ability to be able to interpret the basics. And again, from talking to the owners previously and from the owner's real estate agent, they had simply said the same thing. Yes, you'll need a variance, but here are permits.
Can you repeat that? What did you just say?
That I also spoke to the previous owners and pulled their permits for the work that they did to the
okay.
second and third floor, and their real estate agent as well. And none of those folks had any working knowledge that this wouldn't be able to be done. And again, the site itself didn't tell me that we couldn't do that.
So then you retained Attorney Langer at some point after that?
I retained-
Or after you were denied by the city?
After I met with Scott and Amy.
Okay.
And they pointed out that there had been a new change, And then we sort of came to this understanding that this change was as new as May. And then we came to the understanding that even in July, that change still wasn't published when we were looking for information. And so that's when I thought, I'm in a tough spot. And
So was it not published or not published where she saw it
Yeah, so.
or was looking for it?
Yeah, so the city, and Molly chime in here, but the city does, when it passes its ordinance, it becomes a valid law. It is posted after it is approved, and posted is typically, Molly may put it on the website, she'll put it in City Hall. She can, there's usually 3 places that she usually puts it. However, if you go on and type in City of Delafield code, there is a big database, I'm sure all have all seen it at some point in time, that is run by a third-party organization. And our ordinances are updated to that database on an annual basis. So it is valid law. It's just, there's a lag period when it gets actually put up on the database itself. And there are an array of reasons why that happens that I don't think are really relevant, but that's just how the procedure happens. And it's also actually commonplace with a lot of municipalities who contract with a third party for their code. Did I say anything incorrectly?
That is accurate. The individual ordinances are often up sooner than than being included in the existing, like, overall municipal code. But that, again, is kind of at the discretion of the third party.
Okay.
But for sure, once a year, we get a incorporated update.
So, Basso, that's
Meso.
Meso. Is it reasonable, or that a reasonable person looking for that information, how would she find it? If it wasn't, I guess I need to understand the lag.
Yeah.
And where her due diligence might have been, could she had find it?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 thoughts. One thought is an inquiry with building inspector, planner, city clerk, to verify
Okay.
the current, status of the code. Are there any additional zoning code changes that have occurred within, the last 12 months? I understand that that's, an extra hurdle than just a simple Google search. So, the board can take that into consideration if so chooses. I'll also offer the contrary thought that it's, could be, treated similar to you get a speeding ticket, but you didn't see the speeding sign, the speed limit sign, and you were traveling at a higher rate of speed. You're presumed to know that you're in a different speeding zone. So you can take both of those thoughts in your consideration, but I just want to give you, both sides of the coin, that there is an avenue to be able to find that. And that information, can be made available. There are open record requests that can be made from a landowner. I think the board this evening will need to evaluate ultimately where do you think the reasonable line is, and if you believe that the applicant, certainly could have taken a step further, especially in light of what the law would have been at the time, because it absolutely, that was the law. It's just there's a third-party database that happens to be involved.
So can I ask about the vestibule itself? What is that adding as far as, it does not, from what I'm looking at, it does not add any kind of new entryway. It does not, it's not providing any kind of additional, I don't know, like the functionality seems to me, that particular vestibule part of it seems to be purely, nice to have kind of situation. Or is there something functional about that makes it a mandatory to have thing?
So currently there's no storage on the first floor. There's not a single closet. There's no space to keep coats, boots, jacket, winter wear, anything like that. Our intent in creating that vestibule was to create a spot where you could, hang some coats when you come in from outside. Currently, when you enter the home, you walk right into the kitchen. I think the stove is on the left-hand side. It's just kind of creates a pinch point with people coming in and out. So our intent was to kind of divert people more into the living area so that they aren't walking right into the kitchen. But mainly, it's really, the functionality is storage, because there's, the way the house is designed currently is there's
So
no
it's a,
storage.
it's a quirky house
Yes.
with some
It's-
quirky natures to it and yeah.
It's more than that. That respectfully, that's how the conversation initially started when we were talking about, gosh, where are we going to put? There's literally not one closet on not just the first floor or the second floor. Not one. There's not one linen, there's nothing. The previous owners used the spare bedrooms, closets to store all their stuff, which is fine if you don't have people that are living in those bedrooms that are going to need to use them. For me, the issue with the current entryway is related to my mother. So there is a steep step when you first walk in that goes directly into the kitchen. And then there is, like I said, another sharp left turn or a light right turn. And I wish you'd come see the house. I actually asked a few folks to come in and just walk it and just see the functionality themselves. So this vestibule entryway allows her to go up the stairs, which she can walk straight. Again, the issue with her are the right angles and her mobility and some nerve damage. Walk straight, and then make another wide turn into an entryway that's towards the right of the house, into a flat surface.
So there is entry directly into the vestibule,
Correct, yes.
but from the
From the existing.
existing porch. So she's
Correct.
still going to have to make her way up the stairs.
Correct, and she can do stairs, and I have letters from her PM&R doctor that says she can do stairs, she can do straight ways. It's right angles and turns with her nerve damage that are hard. And so she has a walker, as long as she has a way to be able to turn in to a room, that's okay, or it's manageable, I guess.
And who is this person we're speaking about?
My mother.
Okay, and is she living, is she going to live at the premises?
We're trying to get her to move there, but she is not currently living there right now.
Okay.
No. But that's the plan, that's always been the plan. Yeah.
Another question. So there's 5 adults, or with children and adults, right?
3 teenagers and 2 adults, so you can
Okay.
make the argument about adult,
Yeah.
one way or the other, but yes.
Yeah, good point. And that situation was prior to you buying the house, correct?
We don't currently live together. So the discussion about buying a home where we would all be together was part of the conversation, but we don't currently live together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your mother is not currently there, and the children are not currently there?
Oh, none of us are there. Nobody's in the house at all. But yes, the children currently live with my significant other, Garrett. And so with him moving in, they would move in with us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question for Scott.
Sure.
We were given a letter that was sent to you, Dr. Maso. Am I saying that correct?
Christie, but yes.
Christie.
Christie's
In October, and it's basically a denial letter for your permit. And I have a copy of the letter here. It states the zoning, and it says that the expansions do not comply with the 50-foot minimum shore yard setback required in section 52-111 of the City of Delafield zoning code. And the permit application was denied. Scott, can you explain if this was just inclusive to the 50-foot setback, or were there additional reasons to deny the permit?
No, I think that is the only reason cited.
Okay.
And again, the significance is that they have, so much of their lot is affected by the 50-foot shore setback. So, yeah, that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Scott, could I ask, or maybe Molly, you're the one I should ask. Are these 2 variances? Because there's 2 different issues working here, correct?
Correct. There's the second floor addition to the east and a first floor expansion of heated space onto an existing deck. Is that how you would describe it?
To the south?
That also encroaches, I mean, so two parts of the project encroach into a 50-foot shore setback.
So it's both or none? The way it's being one variance, is that correct?
If you wanted to consider it separately, that's something that you could do, absolutely. That's in your discretion as well. But if you're going to go that route, then we need to make sure that your analysis is clear with regard to each item.
Yeah, I was just trying to get my head around how we're looking at this or how we can look at this.
Yeah, you
So they
absolutely have
can be
discretion.
taken separately.
So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, so, looking at the, I guess, the drawings, it appears that you're creating, like, the idea, I guess, the downstairs changes that you're looking at doing would be, you know, you're doing quite a bit there, right? It looks like you're changing a sunroom basically into a dining area, family room type area. Is that accurate? Like you're repurposing what is currently a sunroom into some other purposes there?
It's called a sunroom, but it's a living room. I mean, we're just,
Yeah, I mean, so on the existing plans, it's classified as a solarium. Take that for what you want, I don't, you know.
Yeah.
But it's living space, how they have it right now.
Okay,
We're basically going to just convert that into a larger living room, move the dining room table into that area because of where we're putting the vestibule and the entrance into the home, because that's where that is right now is currently where the dining room right now is where the vestibule would be entering. So we're just kind of sliding things over a little bit and then opening up the first floor plan to allow for her mother to get around easier.
okay. I guess, I mean, the idea is you are redoing this and you're, you know, I guess reconverting some of this stuff. I mean, is it possible, well, not a perfect situation to create some of that space downstairs into storage that you would be lacking in the that you're currently lacking, to use some of that space into storage to repurpose? It looks like there's some fairly open areas that potentially could be used for that.
I guess I'm not sure because it's just the wall. Like there's not like we'd have to bump out one way or the other to be able to create something from nothing. There's no.
Yeah, I mean, but there, you know, I mean, there's, you know, architecturally, it's possible to probably design in some additional storage. Well, it might not be your most favorite exactly how you want it to be kind of situation, but it would be possible.
I don't
to potentially put that
care what the storage situation looks like. I care about the fact that my mom can't get into the house easily, and other than adding a new entrance to a flat surface, that none of that, there's no way to do that on that existing wall. You know, we're putting in a storage bench on the living room side, and they can keep stuff in there. They can put their, you know, kids can hang their coats and their school bags in their bedrooms. The notation about storage is mostly just to, I think, from my standpoint, to highlight how crazy it is to have a 2,300 square foot house that doesn't have a closet in it. That's sort of, when people say to me, like, and I've heard this, and I know Amy and I spoke about this, she said, you know, it's 2,300 square feet, that should be functional, that's a lot of space, and I don't disagree. I currently live in a 1,700 square foot condo in Milwaukee, but when you tell me you have a 2,300 square foot space that doesn't have a closet in it, to me, there's a functional problem with that space, and there's a huge functional problem with this space that I think worked really well with children under the age of 6 and 7 who were there for a couple weekends a month or year, rather than, like I said, 5 plus or minus adults, and sometimes 6. So the storage, absolutely. We can put lockers up, we can put hooks up. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the sheer functionality of being able to mobilize in a very tight spot currently.
With storage, you know, you had said before when storage was brought up about bumping out, but you could also make closets by bumping in.
Correct, and then I would create another angle for, I mean, the whole point of what we're doing right now for the renovation is to get rid of the sharp angles in the actual house and to open up the space as much as possible for her to get around with a walker. So the last thing I intentionally want to do is create more obstruction to getting around the home. We're trying to do the complete opposite.
So here's where I'm struggling. You're making a case for the entry for your mother who is not currently living there.
Correct, correct.
And may not ever live there.
I mean, I can, if that would change the decision, I would get you a letter to say that she's moving here.
No, we could only deal with the facts
Right, so,
now and current. So that's
understand.
what I'm trying to get my head around.
I understand.
Okay,
I understand.
thank you.
But there isn't a scenario where she doesn't come out. It's just a matter of the logistics of a woman giving up her independence to get her out here. It's happening. It's just, I can't tell you that it's next week. I was just down there
But we got
last
to
week.
deal with the situation.
She may not
Correct, no,
be here
100%.
tomorrow, you know.
Correct. I mean, I just saw her on Monday, and I just paid off her mortgage and her house so that she would feel
Mm-hmm.
better about moving. I mean, it's coming. I also want to create a space so that when she gets here, she can live here, not that she then we have to come back and try to live through a renovation for her on top of everything else. So I get it, I do. Again, if the ordinance or the actual zoning had suggested that we wouldn't be able to do this, I don't know that I would have purchased this house. This was never, this seemed like something that was just a no-brainer, that we would just be able to do, based on what was available for me to read.
But again, those are two different variances. And Attorney Langer, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but one is the second floor, one is the entry.
I was under the
Well,
impression it was one variance,
Yeah,
but
it's
I
all
don't.
kind of under the same variance because of how the zoning regulations are worded. Like, we're not allowed to do any alterations to the house because of the current zoning ordinance.
Is that correct?
You can't do anything that would exceed the current building envelope in light of the fact that this is a peninsula parcel and the shoreland setback would be pretty much applicable to the entire home. That doesn't prevent them from doing interior renovations,
Right.
subject to Scott reviewing those plans.
So they could remodel the inside of the current house, that's not an issue?
Correct.
Okay.
But the reason, just for my clarity, and I think that's what you just said, the reason that we considered it one variance is because the reason for not being able to do either of them is the same, right? And so if we can't do one, we can't do the other because the setback is the actual issue,
Sure.
so.
It is a conundrum.
Yeah, I think the issue comes into is on the zoning regulations, what defines a conforming lot and what defines a non-conforming lot. I don't know if anybody here can define what a non-conforming lot is or what a conforming lot is, but this certainly, to me, classifies as a non-conforming lot, which then would kick it into a different zoning ordinance that would allow us to do what we're trying to do.
But Scott, would the answer to his question be a house that was built prior to any zoning codes,
Correct.
that zoning codes got overlaid in that area, which made it non-conforming?
It'd be a non-conforming structure.
Non-conforming structure, yeah.
The city has consistently reviewed its ordinances and interpreted it as such that a non-conforming lot is something that would have to do with lot width, lot length, and
Lot area.
lot area is another one, yep. And if you're not conforming, you're under the minimum square footage that's necessary to construct on a site, or the previous example that we had here this evening, the last application, perhaps if that lot was super skinny, that wouldn't meet the applicable lot width, and it would therefore be a non-conforming lot. So city staff has taken the position that this is a conforming lot because it is meeting the lot width and lot length requirements as measured under the code.
Okay, so
Then,
The thing that if what we're saying here is that if this structure was not currently there, I don't believe you could build a conforming structure on this property, correct?
That statement is true in light of where the shoreline setbacks are.
Could not, so then, in order, like, if the house was not there, I think, if we think about this, if the house was not there, we would, it would, it would be a pretty easy, like, well, we need to have a variance on here because you can't build anything.
Or there would be another solution, and it would not be in front of this board.
Yes,
It would be, you'd rezone it or something along those lines, right?
Correct.
So, okay.
yeah. That's a good point.
What, like, if it was, I mean, so we're saying that it is a conforming lot based on length, width, side, but I think there is a unique nature to this lot in itself that makes it so that anything done on this property is going to be run afoul of any kind of building code, which is a difficult thing to deal with, in my opinion, as a homeowner. So there's really nothing that could be done in this situation. So I guess, that's just something to think about, is that if we're looking at what they're trying to do, if they hadn't even, if nothing was there, we'd probably, be having a different conversation. It would be, we'd have to analyze this in a different way. So that's just something to think about, how we might analyze this if nothing was there. And I think that's kind of something you have to kind of, does it make sense that you can't do something with an existing building where you probably could get some kind of relief if nothing was there. So it's just trying to analyze that in my own head is kind of a weird trying to think about, and how does that play in the whole fairness situation, so.
And I think you've landed exactly on the dilemma here, right?
Yeah.
And a Board of Zoning Appeals exists because you cannot draft a perfect ordinance. With every lot being a little bit different than everybody else's, and with this lot in particular being a thing totally unique to, the city of Delafield, if not the planet, right? I mean, there's nothing that's exactly like this peninsula.
Okay.
That's why we put human beings in as ultimate decision makers on this thing and say, is this really a unique situation? Is this the kind of one that we, when we're charged to grant variances, use our authority and say, yeah, we've got to fix this to make it work right?
All right. Does anybody else have any other questions specific to this, or should we open this up to public comment?
I have a question.
Sure.
To the contractor, Mr. Sarah?
Correct.
Is that correct? Were there any other designs that you considered in addition to the one that we're looking at tonight with the vestibule, that would have kept it without the touchy subject of being non-conforming versus conforming, and working within the original footprint that would have given the homeowner the relief that she's looking for with more storage and better accessibility? Were there other plans that were drawn up that were given consideration to address those issues that she was having personally with this property?
No. So there is an additional plan where there is no vestibule. The door remains in the same location. We would keep the second floor addition over existing structure, so not changing footprint or anything like that.
Okay.
So there is an option where we do eliminate the vestibule and the deck remains kind of the same footprint. Our thought process on using the deck is that it's already impervious surface, and we're not increasing the impervious surface, and it's not encroaching on the lake, the shore setback. It's more encroaching on the side yard setback. So that was our only reasoning, is that we were, we're kind of using structure that's there already, but there is an additional plan where we do.
So you got a plan B?
We do have a plan B, yes.
For that part.
Yeah. We do not have a plan B for the second floor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have just one more clarification, and I'll sit with my colleagues, but, so, you see the house, you like it. You ask the seller and the real estate agent, why didn't they put a second floor up or whatever the addition you're doing? Just go with me for a minute.
For sure.
I'm trying to get my notes here. They say they can do it. It's within code. You in turn go to the website. Before you make an offer to purchase, you see on the website, and this is sometime in what month?
July,
July.
July 12th.
Okay. So you see it in the website. You listen to a real estate agent with, they'll sell you anything. I mean, I wouldn't trust. You know how many times people have said, the seller told me I could do it. Well,
That's why I looked myself. I don't trust anybody.
I'm just making light of it a little bit. So you did this research. You saw that you could do it because you were thinking about expanding your family. You make the offer. You then find out by going to Scott that this isn't going to work.
We actually, the only reason we went to Scott was to submit the plans. We had
Okay,
come
so
up
this
with all
was
the
after
plans.
you bought.
Correct. We had already put
So
the offer.
your research was the seller, the real estate agent, and the website.
It was both real estate agents, the previous permits from the previous
Both real estate
owners,
agents, yours and the sellers.
And the sellers who
And the
pulled all the
seller.
permits. Yep,
I wouldn't believe a word they say.
that's fair. Myself.
I mean, I hate to be cynical, but that's a fact.
That's fair.
So then you looked at the website before you offered the purchase.
Correct.
You saw that this was okay,
Correct.
right? And then you bought it, and then you found out with the plans
And then we drafted plans.
that the
and then-
things have changed.
Correct.
Okay. And the 50-foot setbacks, how much of your house right now on this peninsula, on like the east side, the west side, is it within the 50-foot setback?
I believe there's.
I'm trying to read it, but they're so small.
think it's
I think you
I
did
think
it on
there's, I
purpose,
think
by the
there's
way.
1.6 square feet that is in the buildable area.
127 feet.
I saw that, but the house footprint, if I measure 50 feet from the shoreline, am I in your living room?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if, in the back of your house, I don't know
Also-
what's,
Also in the kitchen,
okay.
yeah. And on the other side, still
Yeah,
the living room.
that,
So I got the purple, I got that.
yeah.
All
I just
three-
want,
all
again, in
three
my head,
sides.
visualize what we're
Yeah,
talking
the
about.
entire
And
house
the
is-
new code says, since it's non-conforming, it's already a mess. They can't build anything
Anywhere,
at all in this footprint.
right,
On the property at all?
On the,
anywhere.
on what?
On the property at all, they can't really.
They can't do anything, basically.
Correct, our zoning code does not support expansion of this house on this lot.
And somewhere about 6 months ago, a year ago, did that law change, or,
Correct.
May.
okay, got it.
So they could, not that you want to, I'm just trying to explore options. What could be done is the existing structure, the way it is, gutted and redesigned with closets or,
Without
but that's
adding-
basically really all they can do without a variance.
You cannot exceed the building envelope under the current zoning code.
So they would have to gut the inside and start from scratch to redesign that portion of the house.
A complete gut without moving any exterior walls
Or
whatsoever
adding-
would be allowed,
Correct.
as long as God approves it, permitting-wise. That's minor detail, but yes,
That's the only thing possible.
on this present structure, based on the existing zoning code, yes.
Okay.
Just one thing to add to your comment, though. If we were to do that, there still is no good layout to support a family of 5.
I'm sorry.
There's still not a good layout to support a family of 5. Like if we were to gut the whole inside, redesign it, there's no layout that supports a family of 5.
No, I get that. I got 7 kids. I had to move 3 times to accommodate my family. So
And no variances
And
there
no
either.
the other 2 houses weren't, I couldn't make them big enough. Yeah. Right. And that's what happens when you're an Irish Catholic, you end up with 7. I get your point.
I'm just.
Thank you. I know it's challenging. I promise, I love this house. I just want my family to be able to function in it. I know it's complicated. I appreciate your time. I just,
So I just thought of one other thing I wanted to ask. So of all the neighbors who have provided their approval of this, all of them are ones further back, like, are all of those who are further, I guess, towards the end of the peninsula included in that?
correct. So there's 4 houses, so I'm the 5th house. There's 4 houses prior to getting to me. And then in addition to that are the 2 neighbors that are directly behind me on the channel side. So I went to them as well.
Across the channel from you?
Correct, across the channel. And yeah,
Okay.
obviously, we're not obstructing their view, so they had no issues
Okay.
with anything.
Any other questions? All right, we can open for public comment.
We could also,
Oh,
we can certainly open it up for any public comment that is said whatsoever, perhaps for the sake of efficiency too. If folks are just sharing that they're in favor of it, they could articulate for the clerk their name and address.
Can do that.
Yep. And if you want to say something more, then absolutely come up. But if it's, 5 were in favors, then we could probably just have you mention that to the clerk and then get that in the record and call it good.
There's 3 of us that are neighbors here, and the other 2 neighbors, one had an emergency.
Yeah, what was your
Can you
name
please
and
state your
address?
name and
Lynn
address for the
Morrison.
record?
Lynn Morrison, sorry. 2366 Lakeview Court. Same peninsula. One set of neighbors had to go to Indianapolis because of surgery on a brother. Another one was not able to come tonight, but all of us are in favor. We've all had houses, those 5 houses all started out as the same exact cabin. And over the last almost 100 years, they have changed into the 5 houses that are there now. But they all had the same plan to start with. And in every case, we are all too close in the front, too close in the back, and so on. But we've followed the rules all the way through. And these people will be fine neighbors. They did their due diligence. They did the very best they could, and they bought a beautiful piece of property. They would be great neighbors, and I think we should consider the fact that this law just changed, and they did not know, and give them the consideration of granting the variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Price, 1792 Journeys Drive. I'm also the alderman for this district, for this individual property. I'd like to speak in favor of approving of ordinance change for a couple of reasons. Many have already to discuss. The biggest one is the people maybe could have done something maybe a little differently, but everything is 50-50 and hindsight. The website was not updated yet. I understand it takes a year to get all that stuff through, but somebody buying a house is not going to understand that property or that whole issue. I mean, they're not changing the footprint at all. They're not changing the roof line at all. It's not affecting the lake at all. I'm the alderman and also on lake welfare, so very concerned about issues on the lake. This does not create any other changes on the lake that haven't been there for 100 years. The fact that the person bought that, spent an awful lot of money to buy a house and then find out a month later that they can't make any changes to it, they'd have to turn around and sell it at a huge hardship. I mean, that's just not the way this city normally treats its residents. The fact that this new law changed in May, being on the council, I know we processed a lot of changes quickly, And I think some of these were just kind of thrown in quickly because of the time, not going through, line by line by line. I don't think if this is brought back to the council again, and if this is not approved tonight, at our next meeting in 2 weeks, I will have it on the agenda to talk about it. I don't think that was their intent, to do these kind of things to a house that's not really changing anything that wasn't there before. They've spent a lot of money on a house that they can't do now a single thing. So it's not right that we're stuck now and not making any change to a house, that the footprint is not being changed, the roof line is not being changed. They're just making it a better house. It'll be nicer for the neighborhood, and selfishly, a better tax base for the city. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
So again, some housekeeping, the issue of whether this is a non-conforming lot or not non-conforming. For the record, we dispute the staff conclusion that it is a conforming lot. That I think is an argument that probably will continue between the attorneys, but for the purposes of tonight, I just wanted to be clear that that's not we have not stipulated to their conclusion on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask just one clarifying question for the applicant as well? I have no idea what the board's going to deliberate here, but I do want to make some kind of clarifying remark. If in the event this variance were granted this evening, and as a condition of that granting, would the applicant be agreeable to the square footage that has been proposed in the application, the numbers that I had mentioned earlier, the square footage and also the total building coverage numbers, that there would not be any request in the future to exceed those numbers unless there was, of course, a zoning code change that would permit that at a plan commission or staff level. Would the applicant be able to agree to that as part of a condition? Stated simply, there's not going to be any more exterior construction in the future beyond what's being proposed right now.
Not unless he wants to give me 2 more children.
All right, I think it's got to be phrased just that way.
Okay. Is there anybody else from the public? Okay.
Okay, so I make a motion that we close the public comment, or do I just close it?
You can just close it as the chair.
I'm just closing it, all by myself.
Yep.
I have
Your
that
world
power,
tonight now.
I guess.
Yeah. After 8 o'clock, yeah, anything goes.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and
Public hearing at 8:02 PM.
at 8:02, public hearing at 8:02 PM. I guess then we're going to go into deliberations.
Nope.
Nope.
Go to item D, discussion.
Oh, item D, discussion. Where's my agenda now? I've been moving papers here. What's that? Do you need a break?
Can we take a break?
I make a motion there for a brief recess for bio breaks. Anybody who may need that?
We're going to need a second to do that.
Second? I bet you want a second. Okay, we have a second. Let's go ahead and vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, let's put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Who had the second on that? Okay, thank you.
All right, so discussion on public hearing topic number 2, discussion and possible action regarding the appeal of Christy Meso, owner, to grant a variance to complete first and second floor expansion to a home located at 2378 Lakeview Court, DELC 0751105. The property is zoned RL2. Proposed expansions do not comply with the 50-foot minimum shore yard setback required in section 52-111 Romanet I-8 of the City of Delafield zoning code. All right, so I want to open it up for deliberation amongst the panel here.
Can I lead off?
Please.
Okay. Citizens' comments, great comments. Got us thinking up here. A new resident of the city of Delafield should be treated correctly and fairly. So thank you for that. What I failed to say at our first hearing was one of the things we do as well is set precedents. Okay, and we're very careful at setting precedents because the next guy coming in is going to yell at Scott for not giving him a variance because the guys 2 months ago did. Okay, so we got to be cognizant of the code, cognizant of the precedents. But I really believe that the uniqueness of this property is not setting precedents. I think the way I understand it now, I don't know how long the city of Delafield takes to put a change of a code on the website. If it takes 2 years or 1 year, I have no idea. I think she went through the right process and then found out that she couldn't do what she wanted to do. So I think the uniqueness of the property, we should take into strong consideration that she should improve her property to accommodate her family, with the exception, what Jerry was talking about, we're not doing this from your mom, because mom may never be there. That's just the way it is. But I see what you want to do, and I think we should give it strong consideration and treat residents, especially new residents, as Mr. Price said, correctly and fairly. So because of the uniqueness of the property, I want to keep saying that, because no matter what she would do, she can't do anything, which is to your point, Matt.
Yeah, agreed with a lot of what you're saying, and the idea that the applicant would not be able to do anything with the property just kind of rubs me a little bit the wrong way. Basically, nothing can be done on the property. The little bit of a I guess issue with the whole plan that I have is that if we are reading the code correctly, and you had read the code correctly, it says that you cannot expand the footprint, which, even though it's an outdoor footprint, I think that the vestibule does kind of get in the way of that. And I guess I need to understand if there is a way that we can, that this could be approved where we say yes, but not the vestibule part of it, because I think that does run afoul of the code, even as you had read it, even as the applicant had read it and understood it. So is there a way that could be done? And we could say, yes, we approve the vertical thing, the vertical within the existing footprint of the heated space, or however you want to define that.
Yes, I believe you could, and if that were the route you would go, I would ask that, as a condition of that revised plans would need to be submitted to Scott in a form that's acceptable to him as well.
Sure, yeah, make that as a condition of the approval, yeah, condition upon the approval, okay. Yeah, so that's my thought, is that, yes, you may have read the plans incorrectly. You do already have, it looks like you already do have a Plan B. And we are obligated to provide, if in the event we provide relief, we are obligated to provide the minimum relief that solves the hardship. And I think that an approval of all but the vestibule is warranted in this case for the reason that, except for tearing down the whole thing and trying to rezone it, start over, which just seems like a waste of resources for everybody. You can't do anything with the property. So my thought is that it makes sense in this case, due to the uniqueness of this property, that we would approve, save for the vestibule.
I totally agree with that. When I read the case and went through and did my due diligence, I was in favor of denial. What I did not know from what I read in my packet was you did reach out. You made the mistake of listening to a realtor, but on zoning, but you didn't know any better. And I had to put myself in your position. I bought a number of homes in my life. I never went to the building inspector. So I'm as guilty as, if that's guilt, then we're both guilty. But I agree. And with the zoning code, the change not being in a spot where somebody would ordinarily look, and 6 months later it would have been where she would have looked, but it wasn't at the time. I do agree that allowing the second floor within the footprint, minus the vestibule, because there's no guarantee your mom isn't there now, and you can assure that, I know you'd like that to happen, but that doesn't mean it can or would. But I also liked what, is it Michael? What you had said, is a writer agreed upon that no further additions or changing would be allowed, or similar to what you had said. You said it better, but you went to law school. I would like that as a modifier on this.
Okay.
And then I'll shut up.
I feel like compelled to talk to now. A lot of information tonight, and I really appreciate the opportunity to hear everybody, hopefully in the room, that wanted to say and speak to this. It's pretty complex because the property is non-conforming, and that definitely fulfills one of the requirements to grant a variance, one of the three, but there are two other requirements in order to grant a variance. One of them being hardship, and the other one being no harm to public interest. So I'm a little conflicted in my mind, seeing the criteria for all three being correct. I understand your family situation, and that's where the conflict comes in from my mind, that a hardship is not meant to be a personal hardship for you, but a personal hardship related to the type of property. So there's kind of a gray area with that. And I was glad to hear that your contractor has different options available to you. So that might be something to explore in order to accommodate everything that you like to do. Maybe we can find a hybrid here this evening that, would be suitable to make sure that we're not stepping out of compliance with the requirements that we have been given as the Board of Zoning and Appeals review here. So we have to be careful there of our role here. We're not the planning commission, we're not the zoning commission, so we don't have the authority to make any changes that step outside the scope of those ordinances and those zoning rules. That's not our job. And I really liked it when the alderman said, that he will, readdress this with the zoning commission and the powers to be, because that's not the power of this board or this group here tonight. So I'm also a resident of Delafield. I've lived on the lake. I have had a house that I had to come to a committee meeting to get some relief from, and I think most importantly, we have to remember we have to stay within the perimeters of the community. And I think that's very important. That's why we have these rules. But there are some options available, and I'm glad to hear that we may be needing to explore those.
Well, there's not much left for me to say. It's really nice to see the support you have this evening. That's a beautiful area. I'm familiar with it. I've been on the lake now for 40 years. And when you have your heart set on a home, wow, I remember when my wife and I moved out here, there were setbacks, but I think you've got a good plan going, and I hope you enjoy it.
All right, any further deliberations? Okay, then I'm going to do that thing where I do a recess so that we can I can draft a proposed conclusion.
Sure. I think,
wanna-
there's a few remarks I think I want to just make with regard to how I'm categorizing everybody's thoughts here. I think one thing we should clarify right now is where we stand as a board with regard to the second-story addition and the vestibule, or is the board inclined to just approve the second-story addition? I just want to make sure we've got a majority on that.
So my position is that we would approve just the second-story addition.
I would approve the entire project.
Second-story addition only with the modifier that you had talked about.
Yeah, I assume.
I'm comfortable with that as well.
Can we come back next week to decide that?
If you bring the beer.
3 o'clock in the afternoon? I'm with Tom, approve the whole project.
I'm not writing this down.
I had considered abstaining my vote tonight, but it's not easy being last. I can say that, or first. I would be in support of a hybrid to the original ask for this evening. I believe that we should give some respect and consideration to the zoning that is current and that was just recently changed, but also give consideration to the homeowner. So I would opt for with Matt, to have the vestibule revisited with another design in order to keep the original footprint of the home and keep it somewhat conforming, but then grant the expansion of the second floor, which would not exceed the first floor footprint, and also that it would there would be no further additions that could be requested at any point going forward on the property.
Okay, so it sounds like we've got 3 in favor of just the second story going up, and it does not appear that we have a majority with regard to the vestibule. Now, I will add too that zoning codes change over time, so certainly if a revised plan is submitted and there's a different code at that time, then that vestibule could come back into play, or some other kind of variation. That's not before the board tonight. I just want to give you guys some comfort with regard to that. All right, that part is satisfied. I do want to just make a few remarks with regard to undue hardship and property limitations, some things that I heard this evening that perhaps you all would find agreeable with regard to the basis for potentially granting a variance. So I'm just going to list a few things. If things are things that you don't agree with, please state that. If you agree to them, then just nodding your head will probably just be fine. These are just general statements as I went through this and took notes. As it relates to the property itself, we can acknowledge that this is a peninsula parcel, so it's surrounded by, in three sides by water, making it unique off the start. The entire parcel itself is within the shore setback, no matter which way you draw your line, of 50 feet. If this were a vacant lot and this applicant came in to construct a single-family home, that couldn't be something that was built. The current structure that's actually existing here, if they came in with these exact plans and tried to build this, it would not be permitted. The only buildable lot area right now is approximately 126 square feet, consistent with the plans that have been submitted. To look at hardship generally, we can recognize that the law just recently changed in May of '24. That law was not included or in the updated third-party website that is commonly used by applicants, landowners, their representatives, and anyone else looking to understand the city's code.
Yeah, using reasonable due diligence. I think that like the standard there is, reasonable due diligence, and you would not have understood it. So I think, there's a reasonableness factor there.
Okay. I'll put that down. In addition to, the applicant, like you said, they exercised reasonable diligence. They reviewed the code. They actually took a step to investigate themselves. I will also add here that as it relates to the public interest, it doesn't appear that there will be a harm to the public interest in this situation because this type of property is just so unique to the city and would not overall have an impact on that public interest because this circumstance is not something that is likely to frankly occur again with another property owner in the future. Are all of those statements agreeable to you? Is there anything else that you would like to add before we recess?
I agree with all of them.
Agreed.
Agree.
And we'd be looking for a motion to recess.
All right, motion to for recess for drafting of conclusions. Looking for a second.
I second that.
Put it to a vote. In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed? All right. What am I doing here?
A motion to.
All right, make a motion to reconvene. Looking for a second to reconvene.
I second the motion.
All right, let's put it to a vote. All in favor of reconvening at,
Aye.
Aye.
8:47.
okay, opposed? None? Okay, we reconvene at 8:47 PM. Okay, now I'll go ahead and read this, right?
Yes, it'd just be the parts where
Okay.
you put handwriting in.
Okay, all right, I'm going to read off the decision form. The filing date, 10/28/2024, hearing date, 11/26/2024. Owner and petitioner is Christy Meso, 2378 Lakeview Court, Delafield, Wisconsin, 53018. Same address is the real property is located. It's DELC 0751105. The owner and petitioner proposes a second floor addition, first floor vestibule addition as described in the packet provided. Owner requests an area variance, section 52-111, Romanet I-8 of the ordinance, which describes as follows. Encroachment upon shore yard setback from 50 feet for second-story addition and vestibule. Based on the above findings of fact, the board concludes the variance does in part meet all three of the following tests. Unnecessary hardship is present because code does not permit any expansion of the building envelope. Applicant exercised reasonable due diligence to evaluate permissible uses within the code, and May 2024 ordinance amendment had not been codified to city's third-party ordinance host. Which is only updated annually. The hardship is due to physical limitations of the property because the property is a peninsula parcel entirely located within the shore setback from all directions. If lot was vacant, no single-family home could be constructed, and the buildable area is only 126 square feet. The variance will not harm the public interest because the unique nature of the property will prevent such a similar circumstance from likely occurring in the future. Second-story addition only will be the minimum relief necessary to resolve the hardship. The relief granted and conditions remain consistent with the intent of the ordinance and limits any additions to non-conforming structures. The decision order, based on the facts, conclusions of law, and the record in this manner, the board orders the requested variance is granted in part subject to the following conditions/mitigations. Number one, expansion of only second-story addition within the existing footprint. Two, revised plans submitted to city and acceptable to the building inspector. And three, as agreed by the applicant, no further expansion will be allowed unless there is changes to code to allow further expansion. A typewritten copy will be recorded with the Register of Deeds. All right, so that is the decision form. Now let's go ahead and vote on the approval of this.
First off, is everything that was stated sound
Anybody
good?
want to add anything to that?
The only other remark I would add, that the applicant will be responsible for the Register of Deeds recording fee, which is $30, if you could add that in too.
Register of Deeds, paid by applicant. All right, that's fair.
Sorry, we got a budget here. We don't want everybody paying for yours. So.
A couple $100 you're never going to see again. Okay. All right, let's go ahead. And anyone else have anything to add? No? Okay, I'm going to make a motion that this decision form, as I read, be approved by this this panel. I need a second.
I'll second.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I'm going to go ahead and sign and then file this with the secretary.
Okay, and then Molly will sign it and date it as filed today.
All right. Pass this to you. And other than that, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
And let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
At 8:53? At 8:53.
Okay.